You dog! Damn it!
Welcome to the motherfucking We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Amelia Moore, ahead of her upcoming fight with Caroline Dubois for the WBC title, eyes Stephanie Hahn and discusses sparring Alycia Baumgartner and Katie Taylor. With women's boxing continuing to gain more notoriety within the sport and across various media platforms, women with deep amateur backgrounds are getting opportunities for world titles sooner rather than later. Interesting stories are beginning to surface, such as the one about undefeated junior welterweight contender Amelia Moore, 4-0 with 1 KO. The 36-year-old Moore, who is from Middletown, Connecticut, but now calls Colorado Springs her home, is signed to Jimmy Birchfield Sr.'s CES Boxing. With fewer than a handful of fights, Moore is already eyeing a title opportunity in the near future. Moore just isn't a fighter, she's an IV certified and advanced EMT and a sports nutritionist. Aside from her pro career, Moore has also been a part of the relatively new Team Combat League, where she was named Rookie of the Year in Season 2 and joined the broadcast crew in Season 3. While Moore has only had 4 fights in 2 years, getting the fights wasn't the hard part. Staying physically healthy kept her from being more active. It was both a gift and a curse, as she was inactive in the ring, but active in other opportunities that presented themselves. It hasn't been a challenge to get fights, Moore told Fights ATW. I got injured last year. I took a headbutt that cracked my nose. Then I had to go back in there for another fight for Team Boxing League. I took a straight jab and it shattered it. I won both rounds. They used all the highlights from that fight all year. I had blood running down my face. It looked like I had war paint. I had to get closed reduction surgery. I went to the emergency room and the doctor told me it was broken in 5 places. I had a hell of an injury last year, and there was a moment when it felt like, should we rush it back or let this heal? I just took time to heal. Things happen for a reason. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to get behind the mic to do the documentary for Team Boxing League. Moore kicked off the year with her March fight against Bonnie Hunter, which she won by an 8-round unanimous decision. Although the win was great for Moore, it unfortunately came with another injury. It was a close fight, said Moore. Bonnie and I had both traveled, and we had 5 months to prepare, Moore continued. Unfortunately, I broke my hand in the 7th round, but I finished the fight with my lead hand only, and I was still dominant. Looking back at that fight and 3 previous ones, Moore credits not only her amateur success, but also the sparring she received as a pro, which has helped her remain undefeated to date, sharing the ring with future Hall of Famer Katie Taylor and current unified super featherweight champion Alycia Baumgartner. Isn't a bad way to sharpen her skills.
It isn't. It certainly helps Amelia Moore's case given her advanced age and her late start in pro boxing that she's got all that amateur experience.
Though given who she's fighting, I don't think it's gonna matter because Caroline Dubois got amateur experience. She's a fucking Olympian. She was on Team GB.
If it were Rhiannon Dixon or Terry Harper, these fighters who came up in the white-collar circuit and have next to no AMI background.
If it were Stephanie Hahn, yet another late starter in the sport who doesn't have much of an amateur background herself, I could see, but she's fighting Caroline.
Caroline was a pretty good fucking amateur.
Alycia Baumgartner and I actually fought in the amateurs, Moore told Fights ATW. One of the first times we sparred, she said to me, man, I haven't seen you since our fight at the Olympic Trials qualifier. You know you beat me. I was like, damn, she's been holding on to that for a second. She and I have become very close. She's real, and that's rare. Alycia is strong as hell, and you know she has these big punches, so you've got to have good footwork. It becomes a chess match. I've sparred with Katie Taylor multiple times, and those are actually my favorite rounds because she's so damn smart. All of that experience will pay dividends as Moore prepares for the upcoming Caroline Dubois fight
on the undercard of Mayer versus Cameron in August.
For anyone who is unfamiliar with Amelia Moore's background, maybe they'll be surprised to see how well a 4-0 fighter is able to handle herself against one of the bigger names in the sport, against someone like Caroline. Maybe Amelia can wrangle a decision where she loses,
but a decision where she doesn't get knocked out, she doesn't get manhandled. Fighters with less amateur experience than Amelia have been able to go the distance fights with Carolyn, so with those things in mind, maybe Amelia can too, and maybe she can rack up a few highlights of her own. Though as far as making it to a Stephanie Hahn fight,
I don't think it's in the cards, because I don't think she's gonna make it past Carolyn.
I wish her all the best, and I hope that she can make a good fight of it. Maybe she can give Carolyn hell, make her work, but I don't have her winning. In spite of her amateur background and her sparring sessions, it will take a lot more than that to convince me that she's gonna beat the champ.
In men's bantamweight news, Robert Garcia wants a unification fight for Bam before Inoue. Rodriguez became a three-weight world champion this past Saturday when he beat Antonio Vargas by 6th round knockout to win the WBA bantamweight title at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. While many hoped that it'd be the final tune-up before a showdown with Inoue, the undisputed champion at 122 and the ring's #1 ranked fighter pound for pound, Garcia pumped the brakes on that notion.
You ain't stupid.
Garcia, Rodriguez's trainer and manager, prefers a unification bout at 118 against WBO champion Christian Medina next.
Chispo Medina.
With the win this past weekend, Bam Rodriguez was able to move up from number 5 up to number 3 on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. It would seem that the people at Ring Magazine are of a similar mindset, as that's where he sits on their list.
It doesn't matter how much money they show us out there, Garcia said on the DAZN broadcast after Rodriguez's win, "One more fight is what we need. Then we'll be ready. I think we need somebody who is going to test Bam with solid punches and not just speed. I need someone who is going to test him with one punch at a time, but a stronger fighter. There's a couple there that would give him that test." Garcia also said he'd be open to Rodriguez fighting Chispo Medina on the Canelo vs. Mabili undercard September 12th in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Though that'd be a quick turnaround for the 26-year-old southpaw from San Antonio. Garcia added that October and early November are options for when Rodriguez returns as well.
If it takes them that long to get him back out, to where he fights in October or November, that would inexorably push an Inoue fight further into the coming calendar year. Initially, they said they want to do that fight in January or February. But if Bam fights in November, forget it.
Inoue's younger brother, Takuma, also holds the WBC bantamweight title, which also makes him an intriguing option for Rodriguez's next fight. Garcia said he'd be open to that fight, but he believes the 26-year-old Medina's skill set is a better fit for what he wants in Rodriguez's next opponent.
He's too late anyway. Takuma Inoue is set to face Tenshin Nasukawa in a rematch this fall in defense of the green and gold title. He's not available to fight Bam anymore.
Which is unfortunate because to me he would be the ideal option. That's the ideal build-up for Bam to fight Inoue. Beat up his brother, then see if you can do that to him.
I think we need to keep him active when it comes to challenges, Garcia said. He needs to be challenged. The better the fighters are, the better the challenge is, the better he is going to perform. That's why I have no doubt that he's going to go out there and perform against Naoya Inoue, and he's going to beat Inoue, but I need one more fight before that.
Inoue has held world titles in 4 weight classes, including becoming the undisputed champion at Bantam before achieving the feat at 122 again.
The 33-year-old Japanese superstar has gone 9-0, including 6 knockouts since moving up to Super Bantam. His last 3 wins came by UD. Rodriguez, noting that he felt the size difference against Vargas, further validated Garcia's plan for his fighter to have 2 fights at 118. After the fight, he did tell me, "Look, I did feel the strength of the bigger guy," Garcia said. "Why would we go straight into another weight class, which is going to make a big difference? We've got to pace ourselves."
He's not wrong, but it seems like he's more focused on acclimating to 118 than making it to an Inoue fight, while providing reassurances that they are going to fight Inoue and that Bam will beat Inoue.
I don't think he's as confident as he lets on. Not after the Vargas fight and what could be the Chispo Medina fight, if that proves to be difficult.
Bam had a big win this weekend, picking up his 3rd divisional title, going up to 118 for the very first time, fighting Antonio Vargas. Very, very tough kid who actually had a good game plan, had good size, was out there boxing a little bit, took a little bit for Bam to figure him out. Pretty competitive early on, but Bam in his finishing ability. What was your what's your recap on the fight from this weekend with Bam?
Well, look, that was great experience. First fight at 118, Bam felt good, felt strong. During training camp, everything was good. He was looking sharp, looking very strong, feeling very strong. But obviously, when the bell rings, you have your opponent who also has a game plan, who also has experience, who has a lot of, the amateur experience, the speed, the height also. I think that's also something that Vargas worked on and used the first few rounds, and gave us a little bit of trouble the first 3-4 rounds. It wasn't easy, but look, that's what a real champion does. That's what a real fighter does. They go out with a game plan and execute it the way they do. And Vargas was doing it. He's a champion. He's a legit fighter. We can't underestimate him.
I said this in my previous video. I would actually forgive Bam never fighting Naoya Inoue and not rushing himself up to 122 if not for the constant assurances from Robert Garcia that they're gonna make it there and they're gonna beat that fighter. If you don't really want that fight, then stop acting like it.
Bam's been providing those reassurances too, saying that he feels that the fight has to happen. Okay.
Because there's only so many ways that it can, and there's only so much time to do it. Inoue is not going to be at 122 forever. He's already fought everybody there is to fight there.
He's a fighter who I wouldn't begrudge if he retired right now, because if he retired right now, he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Whatever he's doing at this stage, at age 33, feels like a side quest. It feels like he's already completed boxing.
He doesn't actually need Bam.
This fight doesn't actually need to happen. It's only a conversation at Turkey's request. But if Bam and his team are apprehensive about rushing themselves up to 122, just don't do it.
You want to take your time? Take your time. Bam Rodriguez envisions becoming a 5-weight world champion. The former Ring Magazine and Unified 112 and 115-pound champion figures to take another fight at 118 this fall before entertaining the idea of the inevitable encounter against 122 against Inoue. Before it's all said and done, however, Rodriguez said becoming a featherweight champion could be the final feather in his cap. I feel like I haven't even hit my full man strength yet, Rodriguez said during his post-fight press conference. Time is going to tell how far I can go. I know how far I can go, but we need to see if my body allows it.
He's been a champion at Fly, Superfly. He's currently a champion at Bantam. 2 more divisions would mean he caps off as a feather. Can he do that?
It's very hard to say here and now with him just arriving at 118. Just imagine Bam Rodriguez trying to hold back Sebastian Hernandez, who gave Junto Nakatani all he could handle at 122 his first fight there. And Junto is a taller, longer fighter than Bam, more adequately suited to campaign above 118. But look at what he had to go through with that guy and ask yourself, would Bam have been able to do better? Bam Rodriguez eventually overwhelmed the game and brave Antonio Vargas by dropping him in the 5th round and stopping him in the 6th. I did feel Vargas's power. He had a bit more power than I expected, Rodriguez said. I was expecting that moving up to 118, a different weight class, more weight, a bigger opponent, I knew what to expect, so it was nothing out of the ordinary, but I did feel it. Rodriguez's promoter Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing gave his plaudits by saying his pupil painted a proper picture. As soon as they went through the gears, it was just like watching Picasso, Hearn said. It was just pure art in there, pure ability and pure skill. I thought Vargas was sensational.
I think while Vargas was letting those combinations go in the early goings of the fight, Eddie Hearn was chewing his fingernails off is what I think.
Because that's what I was doing watching the early goings of that fight. At first, Antonio looked a bit too big and a bit too strong for Bam before Bam adjusted, before Bam grew into the fight.
He needs to grow into this weight class.
Eddie Hearn continued, I thought Vargas was sensational through 4 rounds, and then Bam just went into second gear. He's just so special. He thinks he's only operating at 50% of his ability, which is a scary, scary thought. Hearn also pumped up the Inoue fight while simultaneously pumping the brakes on it, alluding that they might miss the boat if they don't do it soon. Being at 118 and being 1 division away makes it much more realistic, but that was his first fight there against Vargas, Hearn said. I'm a little bit of a fantasist when it comes to matching fights. I know there are weight classes for a reason, but I don't think the step is too far for him at 122. I do think it's a disadvantage for him against Inoue. I mean, it can only be when you're fighting a much bigger guy. That's what he is. With manager and coach Robert Garcia guiding him, ever since his pro career kicked off, Rodriguez, ranked number 3 in the ring's pound-for-pound list, believes he's invincible while operating at the peak of his powers at 26.
I know with Robert in my corner, no one can beat me, Rodriguez said. I have the best coach in all of boxing. Robert is the greatest of all time. Anything he says, I know it's gonna work, and all I have to do is listen to him. That's what I did, and I got the knockout against Vargas. If it weren't for Robert, I wouldn't be where I am today. He not only got me to where I'm at, but he's guiding me outside of the ring as well, making the right decisions not only for myself, but for my family.
Those things in mind, I don't really think that Robert is all that keen on rushing Bam up to 122, even if it is for an Inoue fight and what that pays. Now I'm getting the impression that Robert wants Bam to go his own route, and I won't begrudge him for that either, if that's what they want to do. But if that's what they want to do, then put to bed all the Inoue talks.
Because if you just keep talking about this guy, with no real intention of fighting him in the not-so-distant future, well then it just becomes clout chasing. Then it just becomes about using that guy's name to promote yourselves in the absence of the fight. And I think that Bam is good enough. He doesn't need to do stuff like that. Robert
doesn't need to do stuff like that. If you don't really want to fight Inoue because you think it's too much, too soon for a fighter who only now just arrived at 118, then don't do it. Tell Turkey, I'm sorry, we appreciate the offer, but we're not going to rush our guy.
I wouldn't be mad. I already liked the way Bam's career was going long before they started talking about Inoue, and I might actually prefer to see him unify his own division at 118 than chase around one fight for one night that might derail him.
I think Inoue beats Bam. If they do it on the schedule that they set, as soon as early next year, it's too soon, and I think Inoue stops Bam.
If it's Bam's intention to cap off his career as a 5-weight world champion, he has to take his time. He has to pace himself. He can't rush himself up to a weight for one night, one fight.
Hasn't fully grown into 118 yet? Don't let these people pressure you to move up to 122.
Put your pride to the side and do what is right.
Sort of already painted themselves into a corner that they now have to constantly address this as a talking point when they could have nipped it in the bud a long time ago.
No immediate plans to move up to 122 for anyone.
Would have put it to them that way a long time ago. They might have been disappointed momentarily, but by now, they would have moved on, knowing Bam's not going to rush himself. But you let them think they might actually do it. He might actually move up. You keep addressing it in conferences, and Robert keeps talking about it, providing these assurances, and it remains a burden. A burden that I don't even think Bam needs.
I understand that Naoya Inoue provides life-altering money for fighters at the lower weights, the likes of which they've never seen before. I've never seen a super bantamweight generate what this guy generates. But if what you really want is to go at your own pace and do your own thing for your own legacy, do that. But be decisive about it.
Don't string us along with empty promises.